25 months ago, I met my first client. The January before that, I threw my first pot. Yeah, that's not that long ago really, is it? So this January will be 36 months since I threw my first pot. Yeah, it's gone too quickly. It's this month, after doing my show in September, has been the first time I've breathed and thought, right, what now? Like, it's actually been the first little bit of headspace that I can think, okay, I'm surviving, this is okay, I can control my workflow, I can control my studio, what do I actually want to do? I'm through the roof amazed with how it's gone. Just, because I didn't set it up as a business. I wasn't expecting to survive as a business. I was just very ill and needed to get healthy and had pottery as a slight hobby and thought, this is going to be a good way to spend the next 6 months while I get healthy. And it just took off, and it's gone from just being a hobby that I thought maybe to being something that's now like it's my entire life, which is an incredible thing. I think I'm quite fortunate that the work I did before, so I worked in garden design before I was a potter, and I worked for a really high-end, sort of top 5 in the world garden designer, and so that was really high pressure. That was flying to Switzerland to go and make gardens, trying to speak to builders in French, not knowing at all what I was doing. So this is all really easy. In comparison, I'm fortunate that the financials, the timescales, this feels very controlled. It's just me doing this. Whereas before I was trying to deal with 50 companies to build one garden that could involve dealing with the Spanish Barcelona council, the police, blocking off roads. It was all that sort of thing, dealing with crane companies. That was complicated. This is so controlled in comparison. It's just me sitting at my wheel, writing 5 emails a day. I can deal with that. The thing that's been scary is that I've only ever made that cup. Like, I haven't had another idea in 2 years. Like, I haven't given myself a moment to think about anything else. I haven't really experimented yet. I've just ploughed through for 2 years solid. And now I'm looking around going, how has this lasted so long? How has no one come into the studio and said, why haven't you had another idea yet? Like, I'm amazed that it's lasted this long. Having something like the cups, I've had to throw thousands of them. And without that, I wouldn't be able to do the other things I can do. And it's just that repetition over and over and over again. And the only reason is because people are buying them. If I didn't have them going out the door, I wouldn't have the chance to make another 1,000, which it's just, I don't know, there's something really there about that repetition of getting to make the same thing over and over and over again. If I only got to make 100 of them and no one ever bought them again, I wouldn't have learned the things I've learned from doing it so much. So it is very much these first 2 years being production pottery. This is what a small scale production pottery looks like. I've only got one wheel, I throw everything myself, I turn everything myself. I make between 600 and 800 pieces a month. It's pretty small scale, but it is production because it's repetitive. I want that to always be part of it because I really enjoy it. I enjoy just the making. I enjoy just the sitting down and having a list of things to make today. From now until February, and where we're October till February, I've just got a list to work through. And I find that really peaceful. I don't have to creatively think, I can just go ahead and try and make everything as well as possible. But I'm also really excited about February when I don't have to do that list, and I'll spend the next 2 months doing something different. And yeah, sort of after that huge rush to get to this point from the last 2 years, I'm now at a point where I'm like, I don't want to be a production potter for the next 10, 15 years. I want to be at some points of the year doing production pottery, and at some points of the year doing other types of work. It's the only time in my life I've ever experienced it. There's nothing else. Not reading, not writing, not anything else that comes close to sitting and making and watching your hands move in exactly the same way over and over and over again. And I don't know if it's different to spoon carving, that it's just your hands. You're so close to the material, like millimetres between your fingers, and that's it. And it's just that gap between your fingers that matters. and just thinking about that over and over and over again, trying to repeat the same movement as you did the last cup, and knowing the sort of the curve of the top of the rim is that part of your finger as it goes round. It's just that tiny detail, and I can do that for 3 days in a row and not think. Put an audio book on, listen to it, and just work. And that's heaven. That if I come in on a Monday and know I've got just that to do until Wednesday, that's the perfect way to spend 3 days for me. Yeah, it means more to me than just money. So it has to be like that each week as well. It can't be just making as much as I possibly can. It's also answering a sort of different question in my head, I think. It's like when I'm making production pottery, I'm trying to figure out, are these well made? Is it holding water? Is it doing all these basic things? But it's not really exploring the other questions that go through my head while I'm making those things. It's not, there's no sort of existential reason there. It's very practical, prosaic type of making, which is wonderful, but limited as well. I think it's both ways. It's people get to see my story a bit, and a slightly, maybe you only, can afford one small cup and you buy that, and part of you is feeling like you're buying a small part of my life. But I also think a lot of it is reflected in their own stories. It's sort of whether it's the sort of minimalism they see, or they're sort of, it's resonating with them because they're hearing their own stories, or the part of the story they want to be telling themselves. And that's such a tenuous, sort of almost dreamlike connection we have between us, that they're seeing a picture and seeing something they want in their own life reflected back at them. And that's the reason they're buying a cup. It's such a weird way for me to have a life, is that I've got this tiny sort of silk-like connection with so many people all over the world who are buying one of my cups or one of my bowls or whatever, and their reasons for it aren't practical. They don't need it. No one needs one of my cups. No one needs one of my bowls. It's fine. You're going to get through the day. Like you can hold your cup of tea in a different type of cup. So there's another reason. There's a reason it's emotional and it's storytelling, and that is such a tenuous link that we've never spoken. It's not a genuine connection in that way. It's a different type of connection. I find just an amazing way that it then supports me in my life. I can buy food and pay rent, and it's just this sort of very gentle connection I have with all of these people over the world. I think it can be so intimidating for people to look at something like this that looks really established, or something like what you're doing that looks so established, and think, in order to be creative, I've got to get all the way over there. Whereas actually, you can just do a little bit at home. That's all it is, and it's so healthy for you just to be sitting with a pencil and paper at home. It doesn't have to be setting up, changing my life completely, not being an accountant, not being a whatever. But it's just so healthy just to do. I'm going to learn to paint one picture. That's it. That's this year. Something I think that stops people doing it is it looks like you have to change your entire life. Whereas you don't. You just have to do a tiny little bit, and it doesn't mean you're going to end up being a spoon carver in the woods or a painter next to a log. Just a little bit of your life dedicated to it, I think, is the healthiest thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what was I looking at the other day? There's a coffee shop in China that has only got my cups in Canton in China, and it is beautiful, like perfectly designed coffee shop. Everyone that goes there seems to be a model, and they're all sitting there with my cups next to them, posing with them, and it's just like, what is going on? Like, these cups I made in the dirt, up to my elbows in clay, just covered in muck, and suddenly there is in this pristine shop in China. It's just like, how did that happen? How? This is miles away from, literally and emotionally miles away from what I was expecting. It's a really, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because wood's quite beautiful to start with. You're starting with something really beautiful. Clay is ugly, clay is messy, and it doesn't look like anything. When I open a bag of clay, you can see it in a pile over there, and it's revolting. It's what is this stuff that I'm going to turn into these cups that are going to China? You now get people who have got a preconceived idea of you meeting you, which I obviously never had before I had Instagram. And so like the other day in London, I met the coffee guy who came over and gave me coffee and said, "Are you Jono Smart?" I was like, "No way." I was like, "Yeah." And he had all this information about me, like that I'd written, so he knew me intimately, and I obviously didn't know a thing about him. And that is a strange sensation. And like you say, it builds up this other bit of your person that you don't really have control of. It's like this whole character, this online persona that people are imagining about you. Which I think is why I try and keep my what I write about and the images as truthful as I possibly can, because it'd be really easy to build up this fake, polished persona that then when I met people I'd feel like an absolute fraud. I'd feel like, why on earth did I write that? Why was I trying to show off? Why was I trying to be cooler than I am? Because I'm not cool. If they meet me, I'm just going to be a disappointment at that point. I might as well be as honest as I can. So, yeah, it's a weird thing that I haven't got my head around yet. This having a persona that isn't the natural, just meeting someone. A picture flashed through my head of when I said I wasn't doing this to start a business. On the wall, I wrote up 5 goals that I wanted to create when I built my first studio, and they were all business goals. So as much as I said it was for health, I was also thinking, if I can create a life like this, I want to, which obviously involves money. You can't avoid that. So yeah, I'd already seen that this is probably going to be the only way I can be healthy. There's a really narrow path I can walk down where I can control my own time. I'm doing something that physically exerts myself, so I'm tired at the end of each day. I use up any excess energy I have, which is a lot often. And it had to be something that was dealing with materials, that was physical, that at the end of the week I could stand back and be like, wow, these things exist, and they didn't exist in the beginning. My first ever job I was 15 and I worked on building sites for like 6 years until my early 20s. And so when I started thinking, what do I want to do now, the times I remember feeling content was when we built a wall, was when we built an extension, put a roof on, and being able to stand back at the end of the week and being like, goodness me, we built that thing, like just through our effort, just through, you know, the bricklayer's skill. I was only an assistant, I was only a labourer, but through their skill and through all of our effort, this thing exists that didn't exist before. And I wanted that feeling again, which I remember that really acutely, thinking, that's how I want to feel. And it's the same feeling now, like standing back at the end of the week and looking at these shelves full of stuff. It's like, goodness me, those all exist just because I stayed here until midnight, just because I worked really hard this week. It's a really easy way to feel proud, like a really, yeah, simple pathway to feeling proud, I think. There's also like, I find it really hard to explain to people that don't make things, but I never feel like I've made these things. There's definitely something else going on. There's the spinning of the wheel, there's gravity, there's centrifugal force. These things aren't me. I haven't done anything like that. I haven't figured out that if you fire clay up to 1,300 degrees, it becomes waterproof and vitrified. There's tons of history that's gone into this. There's nothing to do with me. I can't take credit for it. And I feel that. I look at things at the end of the day and I think, okay, this is a little bit of me in this, but there is tons that isn't me. I haven't made this. This clay's taken hundreds of thousands of years to make. I didn't do that. The thing that I'm struggling with a little bit at the moment is that there is the huge tradition of it, but for a lot of that time it was necessary. It was the way to make a spoon, it was the way to make a cup, it was the only way to make it. And our main purpose is now different because it isn't necessary. So there is a difference between the potters of 1000 AD and the current potters, and we have to be aware of that. Otherwise it isn't completely honest, I think. But it interests me why we still exist as craftspeople. I find that absolutely fascinating that we still exist, that the world, society as a whole, still has a need and a resurging need for us. I'm amazed by it, and I love it completely. But, because sometimes I think the only person that's really getting anything out of this is me. Like, I get to spend, it affects my entire life that I get to spend, control my time. I can work at 7 in the morning, or I can work at 11 in the morning, I can start my day how I want. What really, everyone else is just getting cups. Like, it's a really interesting thing for me that demand is still there. I really go at my own pace. So yes, I think I will always work by myself. I think it's the only way I can be happy and healthy. I'm at a really interesting stage, having gone so fast for 2 years, and then also had the exhibition, which was never intended to be an exhibition. When we first started talking about it, Helen, who's Simple Shape, and myself, it was going to be just a little pop-up store, that she was finishing this thing in her back garden. It's a beautiful little gallery space, but it's going to be her office. And the more it went on, it just turned into an exhibition without us really meaning for it to be. And that has seriously changed how I'm thinking of my future. It meant something really different to me. It's calmed me down completely. Having done it, having done that thing, I could never do that again and feel completely content. It was a really meaningful... Yeah, I've changed. Before I had this sort of desperation to make something really that mattered to me. Now I've done that, I just feel so calm. I'm really, like, I don't need to prove something to myself anymore. I'm now making for a completely different reason. So I'm still sort of sifting through it and processing it. Why? All I noticed was 2 weeks later, I felt completely different. I'd got something out of my system that was, maybe it was some fear that I was thinking I could never do that. I could never, no one would come and see just pots on a wall that I'd made. Like, if I make these, what on earth does that mean? And it's also opened up my thinking and opportunities that if I want, and I don't know if this is what I want yet, to move from craftsperson to artist, that's available to me all of a sudden. And I don't know if artist answers the questions that I'm asking myself better than craftsperson does, or whether I can do both. I don't think there's a reason why I can't do both. And even what the difference is to me is whether they're just words or whether they're very separate things that fulfill me in different ways. That's the point I'm at the moment, is trying to figure out where I'm at. Like, I'm learning so much about myself because I came from a design background and a really strongly aesthetic first design background. We worked for, the average gardens we made were £500,000. I mean, the sort of people that are spending that on a garden and going up to 3 or 4 or 5. So we designed aesthetically rather than from any ecological or any other type of purpose. It was looks first. And so when I started making, it was very much an aesthetic first approach. I didn't mind how I got there. It was, I want this thing to look like this, I'm going to get it to look like that, and then I'll figure out the rest afterwards. And that has changed so much for me over the last 2 years that at one point I refused to call myself a craftsperson. I was like, I'm not a potter, I'm not a craftsperson, I'm a designer. And then like within 6 months I was like, oh, please let me be a potter. I mean, I'm just about to start the biggest project I've done. These are the first bits you're seeing around here. It's a shipping container going to Japan full of things. And I've never done anything like it. I think it's 1,200 pieces. And I think the most I've made before is 200. So was that 6 times more than I've made before? The difference is I've made each piece a lot, so it's just a lot more of them. So that doesn't feel out of my comfort zone yet. It's going to be more of a discipline and energy level challenge rather than a technical challenge, I think. I hope. I can't. At so many points, I just think I'm so glad for what I did before, because it was so pressured. And this is easy in comparison. This is relatively easy, which, well, it's not so much easy as it's just me. So that's so controllable. Whereas when you work with hundreds of people, it's difficult to get anything creative made because people are pulling in different ways and not understanding things, and miscommunication. Whereas when it's, all right, it's just me, that's a much more controllable thing. I should be more fearful. I think there's definitely times where I think, why am I not more afraid of this? And actually I know why. It's because I was so ill, and so every day that's like this is just positive. Like, I spent 2 years basically in bed, like not being able to do anything. So all of this just feels amazing. So I don't mind this isn't scary compared to how bad things got. This does not feel scary at all. Hardly anything feels intimidating compared to that. And so, this just doesn't worry me. Like, I've never had anything returned. I've had a few things break, but I've just sent another one. I'm proud of the things I send now. I worry about the ones I sent at the beginning. I know they weren't good enough. But I even knew that at the time, and I was thinking, well, I've got to go through this bit. I'm going to have to go through. I remember when I did my first biggish order of like 30, 40 pieces, thinking, okay, this one's going out. I'm 40% happy with this, but this is going to be the worst one I ever send out. The next one's going to be better, and I'm just going to have to accept that. Like, otherwise, I don't get the chance to get better. The only other way is stopping. So, if I want this to be my life, I'm going to have to accept that I'm going to feel a bit like this for these first 2 or 3 orders. And the last 6 months of orders, I felt really happy with all of them. I felt proud of them that have gone out. And that's a really different feeling. So I guess at the beginning I was worried, but also accepting that this is where I'm at. I've told everyone where I'm at. I was always really honest with people. I said, I'm in my first 6 months of making. This is where I'm at. This is what the pieces look like. This is how they feel. Take it or leave it. It's like, so I never pretended to be more experienced than I am, I think. I feel like I've gone to a party and I'm standing at the edge and I'm looking at everyone. I'm like, I can see the whole country from here. And when I came back from London recently, it was up here. I was like, I'm really safe here. I can go into my studio. No one's going to disturb me. I can just work. Whether my work's good or not, no one's going to see it. It's fine. When I was in the middle of London, you just feel very exposed all the time. Like, everyone could see your work. There's no space. Which is a really interesting thing. So, my next year, I'm not doing anything. I'm not moving from this studio. I'm going to be like a limpet on here. Like, that's enough for me. I'm like, and maybe I'll have another one in the future, but I want a year of just making, of just solid, quiet making. 3.5 months before the show, so 16 weeks, I worked every single day, Sundays, Saturdays. The good thing with this place is it shuts at 9:30. They lock the doors and you can't be in here, which has been life-changing, because I used to, in the last medieval barn I had, I was there until 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, whereas this place kicks me out, so that's been good. So I sleep now, which is good. My first studio was under the house I was in. The problem with pottery as well is it's you can't leave work. Like, if I just left, if we went away for 3 days now, this would all go to waste. Like, this can't just stay, it's not a stable thing. All these bowls and plates have to get turned over the next couple of days, otherwise they'll dry out and be useless. And so you're really mentally attached to your studio, of where everything is, what stage everything's at. And so there's you have to plan so carefully to take a day off. It's easier to take 2 weeks off than it is to take a day off. It's with Emily over planning our next until this order's finished. We have to plan our days off until February. And it's a crazy way to live. But it's really elemental. It's really back to the Big Bang, back to the beginning of the universe stuff. It's like, I've got tubs of iron, tubs of magnesium, tubs of these really base elements that are like, this is crazy that this thing exists in my hand. Yeah. So we all use the same clays. Clays come as they are from the suppliers. There's only a certain number of places that don't have across the country and across the world. So my glazes are so simple that they're not secrets. My glazes are just matte. But I was sent these back the other day from a soda potter.
he will have a secret way of making those greens and those greys, and there'll be his way. I don't keep anything a secret. I've shared all my recipes, and I always would.
There's so much can go wrong. I have to use jeweler's scales to weigh out the exact percentage of each thing. It can be a tiny, tiny little amount of powder. If you put double, the glaze can just fall off and end up all over your glaze, all over your kiln shelf. So it can go completely wrong. It's not like it'll just look a little bit different. It can not stick to the pot and disappear. So I've already gone from, see the inside of this pot to the inside of this pot. Figured out how to go from this glossy finish, which is quite dry, to a really dry finish. And that was like 2 months of testing to get from that to that. And now I'm at that point, and I'm just trying to find a base. That's just trying to find a matte white that I can then start experimenting from. So this is going to be the base of my next year's work. And so you can see why people are reluctant to share, because it's going to take me another year to get to where I want to from here. It will take, so a day of testing will only be like 20 pieces, and then I have to wait for them to fire, so it could be like 2 weeks from when I've had the idea to when I see it done. So if you think a year can go by so quickly with just adjustments, and so it will look like something on tile, but then when I put it onto the three-dimensional object, it looks completely different again, so maybe I have to go back and adjust again, and then so you're always testing. So I really have started to understand why potters have suddenly got set ways of doing things. They're like, these are my 3 glazes, these are my 2 clays, because it takes so much effort to change. I'm still very much in like maybe stage 1, stepping into stage 2 of being a potter. I've never made a lidded vessel that does work. I've never made a teapot. I've never made proper handles. I've never made a proper handle on a cup. I've got 20 years ahead of me of learning to be a proper potter. I guess I've never at any point pretended to be what I'm not, I think. I've always said, I'm 2 years into this is where I'm at. And when I start to make teapots next year, I'm going to make a batch. I'm going to show all the bad ones, the ones that drip, the ones that don't hold the water, the ones that don't pour very well. I'm going to show all of that, and then show you, hopefully, at some point, the ones that have worked. And this is the design. And I'm happy to show all that process and be like, so I don't think I feel guilt about that, because it's like, I've taken everyone along with me to see this, that's fine. Helen in Simple Shape in London was wanting to show off a lot of her work. She had managed to become part of the London Design Festival for South East London, which had never been part of it. So when I used to live in South East London, she was like, let's do something around it. And then she managed to get loads of other makers like Sebastian Cox and Billy Lloyd involved and started a whole trail. And our bit was just going to be her work, and I was going to show some new dinnerware. And sort of 3 months out from it, I was thinking, I could do something a bit different here, and invited another potter to come and do it with me. By the time the 2 of us started talking, we were like, this is an exhibition, we might as well do this properly. And so, I made non-functional pots, which was really something I didn't think I'd do this quickly. It sort of happened very naturally and has changed the way I'm thinking about things already. It was really interesting seeing myself under stress again, because I haven't for like 2 or 3 years put myself in a stressful position where I'm on show, and I was really on show again for the first time. And I was fine with all the making, like, even though I worked for 16 weeks in a row every day, I was fine. And then the 2 days before, when we were building the plinths, putting the shelves up, I was just getting ratty. I was just getting snappy and ratty. Like Helen, who I've worked with for a year, she's like, where's this side of you come from? I'm so sorry, I don't know. It's just stress. It's just stress and proud to be on the show. And as soon as it was all up and done, I was calm. I was fine. It was just that little interim bit where I was like, oh, this is the old side of me. This is the old side of me that's under stress. It's still there. And it was really interesting seeing that bit that I thought I'd dealt with. I thought I've worked through all those emotions. I'm never going to be in therapy and never have to do that again. it's like, there it is. I'm still an angry man. Yeah. It made me really think about what I'm gonna do. I hate seeing it when I get like that, the effect on other people, when I don't feel like I'm controlling myself very well, and I'm snapping at people, or I'm stressed around people, and I see them getting, like, it's affecting other people. I don't mind it for myself, like, which is why I like working alone, because if I get stressed, it's fine. I'm here and it's stressed. But I hate it when I see it on other people worrying about me, or yeah, it's definitely made me think about exhibitions for the future, that it's a big thing to ask of the people around me. Like, if I was to do that every year, that's a big ask. Which is partly why I'm taking next year off. I'm not going to do anything that exposes me like that next year. Made milk rafts that are too small. You can see. I mean, it's functional in that you could hold a tiny amount of milk, but it is functional. But its main intention isn't function. All of a sudden, doing the show, this is what I've discovered that I do naturally, is putting things together, like actually seeing how 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 pieces go together feels incredibly comfortable to me. So when I have thought about making pieces in the past, I've always thought about how they sit next to each other. The angles sit together, so when one's going in this direction, the other one's going in the exact opposite direction, so that the negative space matches up. Suddenly I got to do that on a scale where I'm thinking about the entire wall, how the entire wall fits together, how a long piece of 30 pots are playing together, how the different tones are playing next to each other. And I was suddenly like, goodness me, this feels natural. This is how I can imagine making pots, which is a very different thing from making a cup to be drunk from. Because each pot is quite plain and quite simple, they start talking a lot more when they're put together in a group. They have a lot more presence when these pots are together as a group than they do if you take one and stand it there. That looks very lost to me. It doesn't seem to do anything. But as soon as it's part of this little group, it's like, they sort of relax and they're together. They feel very natural. There's definitely something family about that. They just do more. The different heights, the way your eyes go across them, there's movement in there. You can't do movement in one pot, or I don't, because I don't do surfaces or patterns on my pots. So the only way I can do patterns is by putting different pots together. It's funny, I was up here with Jim, the photographer, when I was putting these together, so I hadn't decided on the set, so I'd made all the components and had them laid out and was trying to make these groups, and I was sort of picking up and putting back down again, picking up, something wouldn't feel right. And the thing he noticed or was observant about was how quickly I was doing it, how quickly I was making the judgments over whether I felt like it worked or not. And it wasn't some sort of thoughtful, intellectual process. It was just something very instinctual that, okay, I think those 2 pots work together really well. I'm leaving that bit. That's done. That just feels right. I'm walking away from that now. Which is in a completely different... It's tapping into a different bit of me than making a bowl. It's a really... This is why I think I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out whether I'm a craftsperson or an artist, and it's something to do with this, like whether the pots need to sit together. And I'd say that this is that. It can't be any other way. This is the piece done. Or whether I'm just going to make some cups like this and say, use it however you want. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm not the first one to walk down this road and it's quite difficult to ignore the people that the contemporary artists Evan DeVoe and Julian Stair who have done this, and I'm definitely feeling a little in the shadow of that they have said that this is how some contemporary pottery is, this is the way it goes, that once you've moved beyond it being a function, that there is something beyond function in pottery, and it's very hard not to get distracted by that. It's really hard to ignore it now. That I think if I was here, if I'd been starting in the 90s, it didn't exist. So no one had gone down that path yet. We were still looking back at Leach and Lucy Ree and that sort of thing. Whereas now it exists. It's really hard to ignore. There was lots of people making one-off big pieces that were art, and lots of people that were making sculptural ceramics, but not someone that had taken pots and said this is art by putting 1,000 of them next to each other. I don't think so. Lots of collectors have done that. I don't know, I'm distracted at the moment in my thinking, and I'm very aware of it, which is quite interesting. I'm quite enjoying it. I'm quite enjoying being unsure and unsteady about where I'm at. This feels very real to me. This feels realer to me than making a dinner set. Like, it's really interesting. I've made dinner sets and I love how they sit together. I love how the colours and tones and things sit together, and I feel very proud. But putting these collections together has touched a bit of me where I'm like, goodness me, this moves me in a different way. Like if I sold this to someone and then walked into their house, and even if they'd swapped these two over, oh goodness me, I'd feel awful. It's like, if I've put any worth into it, it's the thinking of how these things are arranged and why they're arranged like that. Like that is my worth in there. It's not the making of the things. That's like the first step of making components. The how they go together is everything that this piece is. Otherwise, it's not worth anything. I sent it out with a piece of paper that had what each one was and where they went. Instruction manual. It's awful. I felt awful about that as well. But everyone that bought understood it as well. So it wasn't like I was trying to teach people about that. Everyone came with a pre-understanding of what that was. Yeah, a couple of them were collectors, a couple of them were other makers, but they understood the purpose of why this is different to the bowls and things I made before, which I felt really fortunate about, to find people like that wanted to buy. Yeah, it has to have a different word, because it's not going to be used like in the same way. I'm still processing this, and it's all going through, and it's like, all I know for sure is when I put these together, I felt so different. That when I love making dinner sets for people and going to their house and seeing them using it, and that was one type of pride. But this it touches a bit of me that I can't quite explain to myself. Where you can see all the clay like knotting up, that's where the wire's gone off under the wheel and in between, and it's collected the clay around there, and I deliberately left all the throwing marks in and threw it too thin at the top so that it's gone completely raggedy around the edge. So the next exhibition I'm doing is just down the road in Glasgow, in a beautiful, beautiful shop, but they sell watches, and it's going to be around time, and it's going to be capturing pots in time, like half made, half finished, trying to capture that sort of, just those moments of making. I've pushed it beyond just, I wouldn't want to do it all the time. I love making things that work, but that cup doesn't really work as a cup anymore. I think there's something interesting there. Yeah, it's too thin. Yeah, this is hard for me. This is what is on my mind all the time at the moment, is why this is working for me more than my normal work. I mean, I find something about this just aesthetically pleasing, this piece. There's a roughness to it. I think what's been really nice is having this making list at the moment. I know everything on it. I know how to make everything on it. Because I also know that in my head, I've got all of these questions that I can't answer at the moment. And so I'm feeling inarticulate in my own head at the moment, which 2 years ago would have scared me so much. Whereas I'm very happy to be there at the moment and see what happens. And the great thing about it, the great thing that makes me not scared is it's just time. And like, I've got the time to keep on making, keep on seeing where things go, just trying things. And if they don't work, I'll never show them. And if they do, there's definitely something to explore. Since I've been here since March, this has felt more real here. This has felt like a more solid, workable, this feels much more professional. I know what I'm doing. Since I've been here, I feel like I've known what I'm doing. My shelves used to, when I last year, were this big. All of them. And now I've got this, which is what, 10 times the amount of shelf space. And for potters, that is your entire mind, like, put up on the wall. Like, every potter talks about it, like, they understand their shelving more than anything else in the world, like, because it's the whole process is here, from a freshly thrown piece right through to a finished piece. When I see one piece, I see the faults in it. When I see a row of 30 bowls or 100 cups, I'm just like, wow, okay, I see all the good things in them. So you open up a bag of clay, weigh it out, wedge it to get any air out, to put the moisture equally through it. I make maybe 30 or 50 balls of the same weight, put them on this side of my wheel, put them on the wheel, throw them into the shapes, the cups or the carafes or the milk pourers, put them on the other side, do it again, make a batch of 30 or 50, however many I'm doing. Then they go onto the shelves to go and dry. Then it massively depends on the time of year. If in July I threw them in the morning, I can turn them by the evening. At this time of year, it takes a day and a half, 2 days for them to dry out enough to be turned. So then I put them back on the wheel and use the sharp tools to put the chamfers on, to put the stamp on the bottom to make the shapes perfect, to make the rim smooth. And then they go up there to thoroughly dry, go bone dry, and then they go in the kiln. So none of these have gone into the kiln at all yet. We're looking at all greenware. So they go into the kiln once and they come out bisqued, which is how this piece is, which is completely dry. So it's called biscuitware or bisqueware. And at that point it's completely absorbent, so you can pour glaze into it. So then they get glazed, go back into the kiln, fired to a higher temperature, and then it's done. A lot of it I don't do. A lot of it's happening in that kiln, away from my eyes. I don't get to see it when it's finished. So you open the kiln up and things have happened that you haven't done. And you take them out and you're looking at them and you're like, oh, why did this one go like this? Why did this one go like that? And you've lost a little bit of control as soon as it's gone in there. There's something about that that's different from pottery to other crafts, I think, that you have to let go at that moment. You just have to let go. I think really early on I clicked that it isn't going to be for everyone. I mean, I don't think my work looks like it's for everyone anyway. And it's minimal and stark, and I can imagine people really not liking it. And so I didn't expect it to have a wide audience, I don't think. If your name goes over, your pots, say that instead of them being worth 25 quid, could be resold for 300. I can't sell them for 25 and let somebody else sell them for 300. There's potters in America, there's potters in the UK that make people come to their studio to buy their pots because they don't want just people buying 100 at 25 quid and selling them for 300 or 400. There's potters that don't put their mark on their pots anymore, so they can't be resold. It's a crazy thing. That's the bit about money that worries me, is it going the other way. I have got so much respect for people that just make as simple a thing they can for it to be used. I think that's a really genuine and good way to be making things. But I also find, for me, it would, at some point, it stops what I want to make because it affects the aesthetics of the piece.
And I don't think I want anything, because I've come from an aesthetic way of designing, I don't want practicality to stop the aesthetics of what I want to make. Which I don't feel is right, but I know is who I am. I don't love it as much in these, but when these are half and half, it's like dark grey at the bottom, light grey at the top. It does this sort of natural gradient in between, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. When I have whole shelves of like the greys and the white pots drying out like that, it's like this sort of grayscale rainbow over my pots. I love it. Yeah, you can feel, if you run your fingers up from the base to the top, you can feel the amount of pressure I've put at every point, and it normally gets a wee bit thinner as it gets to the top. You can feel, like this one dips in the middle slightly, so you can feel where my fingers have gone closer together. It's really interesting actually, going to feel them all. This, for me, these are so consistent. This is a much easier clay to throw than these black ones we've just been handling. Yeah, these are good. This is going to be textured a sort of stony colour, and this is a very pure white stony colour. Yeah. You can feel them drying out. These are completely bone dry at the top. It's still really damp at the base. I feel really attached to the black because I've managed to make it work, whereas a lot of potters have struggled to make this clay work. It doesn't take glaze at all. It's horrible to work with. Glaze wants to just fall off it, and it took me a year and a half to get this black glaze. Just that plain gloss black to work inside. Took me a year to get that figured out. So I feel, and also this has helped make my career, I think, a little bit. I don't think I would have sold anywhere near as without these black cells. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm still figuring out how much I like them, how much I like everything. Let's see. Yeah, like this is what it looked like before, so all little bits of glaze and potter stuck to it. Whereas this is, for a studio potter, this is a relatively small kiln. It's 130 litres, which is why I'm getting another one next week. So I'll be able to fire different ones overnight, which will make all the difference to production. Yeah, I can get something like 250 cups into the kiln at a time. So, for a bisque firing, for the first firing, because on a first firing you can do this. You can stack them up without shelves, so I could put a load of them all on top of each other and build it up, have as many as I want. Whereas for the glaze one, you have to have a shelf in between each one, because otherwise they'd all stick to each other. You wouldn't be able to get them apart because they're going to a higher temperature. They'd all just fuse together. I don't think you could do craft without new questions about yourself arising. When I came into it, I thought I was a solid person. This is who I am. I'm a designer. I know the things I like. I'm just going to make these from now until forever, and people will like them or not, but I am who I am. I cannot believe how much I've changed in 2 years, my way of thinking, and I never thought, I was like, I'm never even going to think about being an artist. That is so far away from what I'm going to be. I don't want to answer emotional questions. I don't want to answer the sort of who am I type questions. I want to answer, how do I make a teapot pause? How do I make a cup? How do I make whatever? And 2 years down the line, I'm like, shh, head, stop answering these questions. Why are we here? But I don't think you can spend that much time by yourself, sitting at a wheel or whittling or whatever it is you do, without drifting, not necessarily towards art or towards craft, but being changed by it. I don't think you can spend that much time without being changed.